If I'm Caleb Williams, I don't really think I care where I go. I just want to be the number one overall pick. What's up, everyone? Welcome to FanBuzz Weekly. I am Tyler, joined alongside Patrick and Will. Before we get started, we have a Super Bowl giveaway. We are giving away a full car. We are giving away a Forge Edge ST. Thank you to Publishers Clearinghouse for setting up this promotion and giveaway. If you're interested in winning a car, because who the heck is not, check out in the link description below. See all the details for how to win that Ford Edge ST. Really excited about that giveaway. Should be an awesome opportunity. It is our Super Bowl preview episode. Very excited about it. We've got the Chiefs and 49ers. The rematch of 2019 should be a phenomenal game. If it's anything like the last matchup, I cannot wait for this. But if we're going to talk about one thing, it's not going to be Taylor Swift. It's going to be probably the most divisive player in football this season, and that is San Francisco 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy. Mr. Irrelevant. People are convinced he's not good. I may have said some choice words about him in a previous episode, but he is in his second year in the NFL, and he is playing in a Super Bowl as the former Mr. Irrelevant. So why don't we just go ahead and start? Will, why don't you go ahead and kick us off? Is Brock Purdy overrated? Is he overrated? What does the narrative change about him if he wins a Super Bowl? What are your just initial thoughts about Brock Purdy?
I honestly don't know if he's overrated because I can't even pin down what public opinion is on him. I feel like it's so all over the place. I mean, overrated doesn't mean bad. It just means something relative to public opinion, and I don't even know what that might be. But for me, I thought it was a little insane when he was like a minus 200 MVP favorite. Even if they did end up winning out, that would have been a bit much for like the sixth most valuable 49er. I think he's fine at his job. He's good at his job, which is an incredibly easy job. It's piloting the most loaded and well-coached offense in the league. No one has more EPA from yards after catch anywhere close to his. None of the quarterbacks. In fact, all of the other starting quarterbacks' EPA after the catch combined is less than Brock's alone. And about 40% of his EPA comes after the catch. So he's looked like a pumpkin in some tough situations, like against the Ravens. He's had a great year, but can you really tell me that about a dozen quarterbacks couldn't step in and do the same thing? And even more could have done it if they were coached by Shanahan from the beginning instead of coached by Josh McDaniels or Luke Getsy.
Hold on. Can you go back to that stat? Did you say that EPA after the catch every single quarterback in the league? Is this playoffs, regular season?
It's per play. It's per play EPA.
Per play. Okay.
Sorry. Misspoke.
Still insane.
Yeah, I mean, and to his credit, he's also one of the top guys on EPA, on air yards because the Niners are the Niners offense is just that good through the air. But it is worth noting how much of his production comes after the catch. And even his deep balls or, more downfield balls, a lot of them are very easy because of the respect that defenses have to give to the short game. So a lot of Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk running free with balls that are maybe downfield, but you really expect any NFL quarterback to hit. But still, the fact that he's at all a clear starting caliber NFL quarterback is incredible for the last overall pick. Whether he's overrated or underrated, he's unbelievable value.
That's what I was going to touch on. Is I think he's the most valuable quarterback in the league because what is it, like 100 quarterbacks are making more money than he is this season? Insane, and he's playing in the Super Bowl. I think he's a good quarterback. He's a fine quarterback. I don't know if he's like rated high enough or low enough, but I think he's good enough to get this uber talented team to a Super Bowl and possibly win. I also think he's sneaky athletic. Did you guys watch the Lions game? I think it was in the second half where he was just like dude had wheels. He
had almost 50 rushing yards on multiple scrambles. Yeah,
all in the second half. When I was just like, where did that come from? I think he's also a bit of a conundrum. I think if he wins the Super Bowl, he's going to break a lot of people's brains that think you need an elite quarterback to win a Super Bowl. And then I wonder what the conversation, how that changes. Like, should we be putting so much stock in elite quarterbacks, trying to find the next, Mahomes, or do we just take a guy who's great value? He can manage a game and build a loaded roster around him.
I think Purdy is the perfect example of a player that is just now in the modern day of sports media where no one can be good. You have to be the greatest quarterback that's ever existed or the worst quarterback that's ever existed. And what I wish we had was this conversation about, look at where he came from. He was the Benjamin Button of college football at Iowa State. I remember the first time I watched him, I think it was like a freshman or sophomore. I was like, this kid is an NFL quarterback. He then proceeded to just get worse and worse every year. By the time he was graduating, go to the NFL draft, he was a laughingstock. It was so bad. He was a broken quarterback. So for him to go from that to Mr. Irrelevant to being the third string quarterback behind Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance, who was the number 3 pick at the time, now all of a sudden he's winning games. And again, I don't want to have the argument about he's MVP or he's like an all-pro quarterback or anything like that. But to go from that guy to all of a sudden being at the helm of a Super Bowl team that by DVOA is one of the greatest offenses the NFL has ever seen is truly incredible. Like that alone, I just wish it was more of how incredible is this story versus how good is he as a quarterback. And I think we kind of had that discussion last year before he got hurt in the playoffs. But since that kind of momentum of that narrative went away with the injury, we just kind of ended up with this insane discussion about who is he actually as a quarterback, when in reality, it's just a fascinating conversation about it's just like one of the craziest stories in sports. We might have a Super Bowl champion quarterback that was Mr. Irrelevant, which has become like a joke in the NFL draft. And I really love it. Now, let's say he does win the Super Bowl. What's that narrative change? Like, what does it look like going forward? Patrick, why don't you start with that?
Well, I think he's a very good quarterback. I don't know. I think it's tough. I think we talked last week about, Mahomes' legacy if he loses to Purdy, but I don't think Purdy's like a bad quarterback. We saw Cam Newton say he's the 10th best player on the 49ers, and it's like, okay, I don't think that's really a dig. It's like that he's not a terrific team, and he just happens to play quarterback. I think you're right. Everyone expects the quarterback to be elite, to be, this and that. And I think, comparison is the thief of joy. And when you're comparing him to guys around the league, it's like, it doesn't matter if he's as good as Lamar Jackson or, Josh Allen. Those guys aren't in the Super Bowl. So what is the conversation? Like, what are we for?
He's definitely no Trent Dilfer. I'll give you that. Will, what are your thoughts on if he wins the Super Bowl?
Well, I mean, we need some context to if he wins the Super Bowl. I want to look back to the 2019-2020 season when these teams last faced off in the Super Bowl. Let's look at the NFC Championship game. Jimmy Garoppolo was 6 of 8 for 77 yards in a resounding win. Did that make Jimmy Garoppolo a better quarterback in anybody's eyes? I hope not. But seriously, I think that we got to just contextualize. We got to keep going back to what Brock came from and what he is, not just in terms of where he was drafted, but financially. He's making less than $1 million and could win a Super Bowl. But people talk about that as if it's a handicap. It's actually a boost to him because it allows the team to build around him. And I want to go back to something Patrick said that was super interesting, that he might be the most valuable quarterback in the league. And maybe a win could signal a move away from an emphasis on superstar QBs, where we've seen these quarterback contracts get out of hand. I think that you really do need to have a quarterback that falls into one of two categories to win a Super Bowl. A dude on a rookie deal or a bona fide Hall of Famer. If you're paying anything short of a Pat Mahomes, a Matt Stafford, a Tom Brady, 40, 50 million, you're not going to have enough money to build around him. But someone cheap, and I hate to say these guys in the most valuable quarterbacks, but Jordan Love and CJ Stroud, they're guys who qualify. They're on rookie deals and they're good enough. And I think Brock Purdy falls right into that category as the most valuable guys in the league, even if I don't think a win would change that much if it's the McCaffrey show, perception wise for me.
You know what's insane? I'm on Over the Cap right now with looking at quarterback salaries. He's the third highest paid quarterback on that roster behind Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold and I think Brandon Allen or someone. It's like, what the hell is going on?
It's amazing. I think a good example of this, I like that Will brought it up. You have to have the superstar quarterback or the rookie deal quarterback. And I think a team that's a good example of what happens after that window is the Seattle Seahawks. Remember Russell Wilson really not getting paid a lot. And you think about the talent around him on that team. Suddenly he gets that mega contract extension and it becomes a whole lot harder to, that Super Bowl window can close really fast, especially if he ends up not being the guy. And that's no dig at Russell Wilson, because for what his value was on that rookie contract, sensational. He's one of the best deep ball throwers I think the NFL's ever seen. But obviously that production kind of fell off a cliff as he got older with that contract. So it just goes to show you, if you don't have that unquestioned guy and he's not on a rookie deal, it does get that much harder, which makes me a little worried as a Packers fan. But
you got Love a little. Oh, actually, Love's old. But
25ish, yeah.
Well, he's like in what was this year 3 of his rookie deal? And
he was on his. So was it technically? I think it was the final year of his rookie deal, and then next year is like a. Yeah, they didn't do the 5th-year option, but they re-signed him to a 1-year extension, which was very strange. It was very similar, but he's about to make a boatload of money this offseason.
We have an article on FanBuzz.com of something very similar to this, where we talked about how the Bills are about to be in a tough situation. Josh Allen's he was making small money, then kind of medium. Now he's going to be making big money. So we'll see how it plays out in Buffalo as well as San Francisco and Green Bay, I guess.
Well, regardless of what happens to Brock Purdy, love him or hate him, we can have those arguments. I should probably apologize for going as hard as I did. I think I was just coping as a Packers fan that one day, calling him a fraud. But just all the credit in the world to him. It's been an incredible story, and I'm glad that we actually took some time to, appreciate that. I am curious, if you're listening or watching, give us your comments on what you think about Purdy and this whole situation. But before we go, obviously, kicking this off right before the Super Bowl, we got to get Super Bowl picks. Will, why don't you go ahead and start us off? What are you seeing?
Oh, man, I mean, just on paper, this is so Niners. I mean, the Chiefs can't stop the run, and the only reason the Ravens didn't get rushing production was because they didn't try 6 handoffs to running backs. I know I've said that on this show before, but I can't get over it. I think the Niners are going to have a much better game plan. This is Kyle Shanahan we're talking about. As much as we love Todd Monken, this is his first NFL shot. Shanahan's been here before. I think the Niners come out of the gate really strong. Niners first half is one of my favorite bets for this game, if we're looking at it through a betting lens. But I do think the Chiefs will pull it out. This defense is just, if the Chiefs get ahead at all, Brock's going to have to make more uncomfortable throws than he's made all year. And circling back to that easy system and the yards after catch, I don't think those opportunities are there against McDuffie, Snead, and the pass rush. So I think the Niners are the better team, but the Mahomes, Reed versus Purdy and Shanahan is just terrifying to me. Give me Niners first half, Chiefs full time.
All right. Well, throw out logic when I pick here, because I'm not going with logic. I am taking the Chiefs, but I'm taking a score that has never happened in NFL history. I don't know if you guys are familiar with scoregamis.
Love scoregamis.
Just so incredible. It's only happened, I think, 3 times in the Super Bowl, the last being the Seahawks-Broncos 43-8. I want something like that, but I want it a little bit closer. So I'm going 32-26 Chiefs, simply because it's just never happened. And I just want a close game.
I really want to know what the odds on that exact score are. Send that to me. 0. Send that to me. I'm going to look it up. Yeah. Maybe I'll sprinkle a little money. Patrick can come away with some home run bets. So let's see what happens.
Hey, I got 2 Super Bowl squares, so I'm hoping one of those is that.
I love it. There's so many matchups in here that fascinate me. Like I am worried about the 49ers run defense. Chase Young plays incredibly undisciplined. You saw in the playoffs, they got gashed against Detroit and Green Bay. Just running like crack toss at the edge rushers because their ears are so pinned back that you can block them down. And all of a sudden you have massive rushing lanes. Ambry Thomas on the 49ers secondary terrifies me. I can imagine MVS of all people just running a deep shot against Ambry Thomas and, making an explosive play. Betting against Mahomes. This is a guy that coming out of Texas Tech, I said was QB1 over Deshaun Watson and Mitch Trubisky. Like, I was so convinced this guy was special. I'm taking the 49ers. It's -2. All the public money is on the Chiefs. When I see that much public money on a team, I usually go the opposite way. And I just think structurally, there have been so few problems for the 49ers long-term when healthy, whereas the Chiefs have just had so many questions that needed answered. And granted, they've answered a lot of those questions in the playoffs. The thing I keep coming back to is, as much as we've discussed Purdy, the one thing I have to give him credit for wholeheartedly is his composure being down big in these playoff games. Has not been rattled at all. And Grant, I think some of his best throws have come in these dire situations. So give me the 49ers. We'll see what happens. I cannot wait. All the Taylor Swift drama and all the commercials aside, I do think it's going to be a very fun game. Give us your comments, give us your picks, give us your thoughts on Brock Purdy. Appreciate everyone for listening. Make sure to follow us on our newsletter. And again, if you want to win a car, which is a pretty tight giveaway, check out that in the episode description. I'm Tyler. That's Patrick and Will. We'll see you next time on FanBuzz Weekly. Take care.
But Mahomes has done it better than Brady through the first 6 seasons. I know you said to throw him out, but I feel like you can't necessarily throw it out because we don't know what the rest of Mahomes' career is going to look like yet.